Running from, you might be running right into the same situation because you didn't get what you were supposed to get from the past situation. Whereas going to, you have overcome, and you receive what you needed to receive from your past experiences so that you can go into the new experience well equipped and prepared. So when that something similar shows up, you don't respond the same. And there's a difference in responding versus reacting. Reacting is not usually good. Responding to things is usually what a prepared person and a
Yeah.
confident and equipped person would do.
And I love legacy. I studied legacy, and that's pretty much the basis of it, is doing something. And when you get to the point in life that you realize that life is not about you, it's about what you put into it, the seeds
Right.
that you drop in the ground. And maybe it's your time, it's your time to water, that you water those seeds, bring
Yeah.
that sunshine, then that does help all of us make a better place for the next generations that are to come. And
Yeah.
so with that, so I also see in with your talking in when you do entrepreneurship, to me, entrepreneurship and small business for the most part, especially entrepreneurship, there is a difference, but we won't go into that.
Yeah.
But the entrepreneurship part is more of like artistry. And I say that because when we talk about artistry, anytime somebody's an artist, whether they draw, they sing, they write, all those different things, whatever they produce has their DNA in it.
Right. Right.
So when you see something, they are revealing a piece of themselves to you. And so that's what I'm seeing as you're describing your entrepreneurship journey, and in the purpose that you put behind it, the social responsibility that you have there, and the impact that you want to do. I see that your character is embedded in each of those things that you
Yes.
do. So with that, was that character, of course, you described growing up, it was built there. What about when you were in the workforce? Did you
Workforce.
select jobs for your purpose, or was your purpose, did you really grasp hold of your purpose after working and then realize, you know what, I can do something better, I can make a greater impact? So talk about your work experience and how it contributed to your purpose, and then why and when you knew it was a time to break away and do entrepreneurship.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I'm glad that you bring that up because sometimes we think that life is going to be a perfect path, from A to B, B to C, and I feel like I've had some pivots. I've had some detours, and oftentimes we hear people that are very successful people even mention and talk about these. I would have never been able to tell you that I would have gone into some of the work areas that I went into. But when I look back, I'm able to see that each time I was adding more to my toolbox. I was adding more tools to work with later. So um, I would say that early on, like after the college, after the military, I kind of had a I knew where I was strong. I kind of knew where I felt comfortable. So I was looking for opportunities that kind of would have been an easy transition into those spaces. Um, but as I matured, um, I found that I started to make my decisions more based on ultimately where it is that I feel like I need to go or I'm supposed to go. That came from me kind of understanding my life purpose,
Yeah.
understanding my, why I'm here. And that's when I started to be a little bit more intentional about what roles I selected and what organizations that I became a part of.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if you want me to dive a little bit deeper, but I'll tell you that the moment that I kind of started to understand that my corporate work life had kind of run its course was I started to be just dissatisfied. I started to be kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Uh, I also started to think that I was working for people that were not as qualified sometimes for the
I've always
job.
experienced that. Yes.
I know. And so I had to ask, questions like, what am I supposed to do? What does this mean? And I think that in order for God to take you from one place to another place, sometimes he has to release the hold or the grip that you
Mm,
have where you are. And that
yeah.
could be a relationship, that can be a workplace, that can be a city, a state, that could even be the
Yeah.
United States.
Right.
And I tried to position myself in such a way that I'm not dropping an anchor in anything other than God.
That's good. Uh-huh.
So if and it makes me think of the story of Jonah. But if he wants me to go somewhere or go a different direction, that I don't want him to have to yell or have to give me a very serious experience to release me from where I'm at. But at the same time, I do need to hold on enough to keep what's supposed to be there in place. So
Right.
I can't just go with the flow and just be all over the place, but I can't put a tight grip on everything in order to not be available to be able to move in another direction or wherever if I need to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it makes perfect sense, and I like when you talk about. Sometimes I think we get comfortable in places,
Yeah,
and so it makes me think about when they talk about accidents, and most accidents occur when people are near their home because they're
right,
used to the stop sign, they get comfortable with
right,
it, and so sometimes things have to happen in our lives to push
yeah,
us in direction because when you get comfortable, I don't know necessarily that you're in a space where you are learning and you are growing, right?
right,
You're stagnant. So I
right.
I I like that. That I agree with that so
Yeah,
much.
and that's true. And for people that are not sure when that time when is their time, it's going to be up to them to seek and to ask those questions. But I can tell you that generally, sometimes it can happen while everything is fine where you are, and
Mhm.
it just hits you, and that it's time for you to do something else. But sometimes situations and uncomfortable situations and turbulence and toxicity and turmoil
Woo.
starts to show up to let you know that maybe this is not what all that you think it is, and maybe you need to consider something different, but something meaningful, not just something different. Because if you leave a space because you are running from something, whatever you go to, it's going to follow you.
Yeah, it's right
It's
behind
going to
you.
follow you.
Yep.
You can't. So whatever you're supposed to get and learn from where you are, make sure that you allow yourself to experience that, because it makes me think of the difference between a fern and the bamboo. I mean, the story is very popular. The plant the seeds of the fern, and it comes up really quick, and it's beautiful to look at and to see. But as soon as a storm comes, it rips that fern right out of the ground. It can't withstand anything. But the bamboo grows underground, establishing roots for a
Yeah.
long time before it ever comes up above the surface. And sometimes that's what happened with our people, with our young people, is that sometimes, like especially nowadays, sometimes they want to be the fern. They want to blossom and bloom right away, but sometimes they
Mhm.
need some roots, so that they can withstand what may be to come in the future. So I would say be careful not to run from a situation, and just and rather go to
Mm,
something. There's a difference in running from and going to. Running from, you might be running right into the same situation because you didn't get what you were supposed to get from the past situation. Whereas going to, you have overcome, and you receive what you needed to receive from your past experiences so that you can go into the new experience well equipped and prepared. So when that something similar shows up, you don't respond the same. And there's a difference in responding versus reacting. Reacting is not usually good. Responding to things is usually what a prepared person and a
Yeah,
confident and equipped person would do.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think also, and you kind of touched on this as well, is that really knowing who you are as a person helps you to determine when is the right time, right? It lets you know I'm in a toxic situation because there are people who are in toxic situations. They're just sitting there and they think that that's just the way things are supposed to be because they've always
Right.
had toxicity. And so, they might have a harder time realizing like it's not supposed to be this way. But yeah, I totally agree because I've been in toxic work environments and I'm like, it's time for me to go because everything that I see around me, I'm complaining about it. I'm like,
Right. Right.
get on my nerves. And so a lot of times that's the time where it's time for you to go into new wineskin, right? Because you've outgrown the skin, the environment that you're in. And so we
Hey.
realize that, am I complaining about everything that's happening? Maybe it's time for me to go. It's not everybody else, it's me. It's time for me to go. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Self-awareness is very important.
Mhm.
Understanding your purpose, why you're here. You may not know exactly, what you're supposed to be doing, but understanding why you're here, being active in the community, being active, you can discover, what you're supposed to be doing at this particular season, but being active. You can't sit idle and think
Right.
that it's going to come and knock on the door and say like, I'm here. But you have to be active and just be patient with yourself and ask God. Ask, don't be afraid to ask. And
Yeah.
having that self-awareness and understanding your purpose, there's a sense of discernment that comes with that's very important to let you know what I'm supposed to do and when I'm supposed to do it. And I won't tell you that I'm an expert at it, but I can tell you I'm much better than where I used to be because I I don't feel like I'm not as plugged into the societal machine as I used to be. So I'm not just going along. I'm not following somebody else's quote unquote American dream or somebody else's blueprint. I have a blueprint for my life,
Yeah.
and that's what I have to follow because what the world defines as success may not necessarily be success for you
Exactly.
because the world didn't make you,
Right.
so never, looking at what someone else has or competing with someone else or wondering how fast they, reach this certain level or this certain,
Yeah.
space, it doesn't matter. It reminds me of golf. In
Uh-huh.
in the game of golf, it's very different than other sports. Most sports, the highest score wins. In golf, the lowest score wins. In golf, you can't get hung up too much on a bad shot or even a good shot. You can't get too high or too low because within 60 to 90 seconds, you're probably going to be getting ready to hit another shot. So you have to learn how to be able to compartmentalize experiences, but not robbing them of their substance. You have
Yeah.
to be there to be able to extract whatever nutrients or goodness,
Yeah.
from both, from those that are good and some that are considered not so good, because that's all going to play a role in you growing like a plant. But at the same time, you don't have to be so wrapped up into those experiences to the point that you're not even functional. to be able to move forward, be it good or bad. So I call it a sweet zone, and each person has a different sweet zone, but find that area where you can acknowledge and experience and recognize those things that are considered good and those things that you consider not so good, and get what you need to get from it and be able to be present in them, but at the same time not become dysfunctional or non-functional at all.
So are you telling us that golf is a lesson? There's a life lesson. The game of
Golf is
golf, the game of life.
it's a beautiful game. It's a beautiful game of patience and etiquette and integrity, sportsmanship, if you're doing it right. But
And then also, most people are their best in golf at a later age.
yeah, I'll tell you this. I wish that I would have learned. I've been playing the game for a couple years now. I wish that I would have learned the game much sooner. I wish I would have started earlier, but it happened when it was supposed to happen. But the game of golf is like, it's not you against another person. I mean, you might be playing with someone, or you might be playing with about 60 people, but it's not you against those individuals. It's you versus the golf course, and it's you versus the elements, the wind. It's not you versus another person. So that's the way I kind of see life. It's not looking at what others are doing or what others have. You can learn from them and extract from them, but at the same time, your path is your path, no matter how similar it may look.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you make me want to. No, I can't even say that. So you make me want to get back out there in golf, but no.
Come on, I'm telling you, it's a beautiful time in nature.
But that is an excellent analogy, and I didn't see those similarities before to golf and life. But that is a perfect analogy. It's funny how sports, with every time somebody's trying to get a point clearly off, they always revert back to sports, because it just has the most perfect analogies of life lessons. And so yeah, okay, cool. So I wanted to ask you, don't miss part 3, where Michael shares a story about a life-threatening situation that infused his purpose.